What is up? Kia ora, kia orana. I'm coming to make this video to help us stay grounded. This is how I help myself stay grounded, and I'm just sharing that with you, okay? I came back from 3 weeks of festivals, been in Wānanga, just been around a lot of people. I came home, I had to decompress, and this week, it's Thursday now, I have been doing that. I have come home to some very new beginnings and a very heavy bleed, and I haven't had a lot of space to be online whatsoever. But I knew that when I did come online, I wanted to talk about this first. It's very important to me to read the room and, to share the processes that I use when there are some big energies out and about. It's very important for me to do that first and then get into the business. You know what I mean? So let me share this little story with you. Maru comes home on Monday and he shares with me that he went to fill up the ute and it was $180. Now it's generally $120 to fill our ute, and he went tap and it was $180. But there's a catch. That wasn't even the truck wasn't even empty. So that was just to partially fill the ute, which gave him a surprise naturally, and me too, and it kicked him into what are some alternative methods to be getting to work each day. And he started looking at the trains, and so as he's telling me all of this, I'm his soundboard. In human design, Maru is a human design projector, and he has self-projected authority, which means that how he hears his truth and makes decisions is by talking it out and hearing his truth when he's speaking. And so I'm listening and I'm trying to hold that space, and it's also like a very stark wake up call that there's things happening, and it's like shit, there's actual changes that he's trying to make. And so I was like tripping out a little bit, just like bit mad, bit sad, bit pissed off that that he's having to like do all of this. But I was just sitting there listening and just staying focused, and this is how I came up with this model that I'm about to share with you, because this is what got me through. This is how I think about things. Whenever I'm going through something, I like to create a map, a model, and then I like to use it, okay, to navigate myself through challenging times. And so this is the model that I've created, and I'm going to take you through it. So what is a fad? A fad is something, it's like a trend that, people in the collective or in a culture grab onto and, put a lot of hype around. Now, I won't go too far into the analogy or the metaphor, but what I'm trying to say here is that things pop up in the world and they can have a knock-on effect and affect how we live. And so what I'm proposing is that, or what I've done is I've created a little basket in which I can put a model or a map that I can use to get myself through these things that pop up, these trending, they're not trending, but these things that are happening in the world that pop up suddenly, like a trend. I'm going to create a fad to get my way around it. And the fad is focusing on these 3 letters. Now, that first letter, there's a big elephant in the room around that first letter. And that is what the things that happen in the world can produce a lot of fear inside of us. Alternatively, the reason for this is so that we don't just fall into the flow of fear. Instead, we're able to remain focused and grounded. Okay, so this first letter, F, right? We can give our energy to fear, or we can remain focused. And how do we do that? The other side. Flexibility. In when there are times of change, we do have to be prepared to be flexible. Um, and if we can practice doing this, um, then it becomes easier to, you know, to go with to remain focused. If we are hard out detached, which is why the last letter on here is D, and we're going to go through detachment. If we're hard out attached to the way we've always lived, to the way we've always done things, had things, then we're going to find it harder to stay focused, because we're going to be worried about what's being taken away. Instead, you know, we want to learn to be flexible. So that day I was sitting there with Maru, I was freaking out. I'm not even going to lie. I was in fear and I was freaking out, because for him to have to make such like drastic changes, not have to make such drastic changes, but for him to even be looking into those was putting fear into me, because I was like, that's a real change. Um, like that is real for him to be thinking about making those kinds of changes. And so I was freaking out. And I thought, you know, I could hear in him that he wasn't freaking out. So I needed to find a way to remain focused. And how I did that was, look, he's fine. He's going to have a buzz. You know, he's finding a way, finding a solution to, you know, be smart, play smart, and I can support him in the ways that I know how, so I can help him get set up and getting to the trains and navigating all of that. I can, make sure that, like, not even though I already do this, but make sure that there's some kais, there's some dinner when he gets home, like, because part of the guilt was me being at home, and like he's up at 4 o'clock in the morning anyway driving. Now he's going to be up at 4 o'clock biking and then catching a train, and so that just kind of weighed heavy on me. So I was like, where can I be flexible and help even more? And aside from doing all those things like having Kai ready food, helping him with getting organized for the trains, the biggest help is going to be me not crashing out. So staying focused, and in order to do that, I can learn to be flexible. So that's how I did that first piece, because me crashing out is no help to him. And just, yeah, it will just keep me in a state of fear. So the next one is, all right, awareness. Awareness and attention. As I've been talking about outside of, like, just in general, it's not about, like, for me personally, I haven't got the Facebook app just because I feel like there's a lot of fear based stuff on there for me. That's just my personal opinion. When I go on that app, I can see a lot of fear based stuff, and so I just choose not to have the app on my phone. And so what I'm doing is I'm limiting my attention to those things. But it's not about burying my head in the sand. Maruto looks at a lot of that stuff and stays in the know, and he'll let me know, like he did with the petrol, when things are kind of getting real. So it's not about completely blocking out what's happening. It is about being aware, like having awareness of what's happening around, but also, again, not getting lost in that fear rabbit hole, and instead, like, limiting where our attention goes. I just heard one of the sissies on her stories talking about, tell me what's happening in your world. Never mind what's happening in the world, but what is happening in your world. And I love that. I love that emphasis on, and also another projector, Māori wahine. That I love that emphasis on, like, where to put the attention, where to put life, where to speak life into. Like, that also needs to happen. We can't just be aware and then let that consume how we're talking, how we're taking action, how we're showing up. Like, it can't be the center of our universe, the stuff that's happening in this world, because that leads me into the last piece, which is around D for direction and detachment. So the piece around not not like not letting these events in the world direct what we do, what we say, how we live. We still want to have the agency to choose our direction and, you know, choose where we're going. We still get to choose that, and we can still put our focus and our intention in the direction that we want to go. And also, we also need to hold those things with a very light grip, okay, knowing that things may need to pivot or change, just like, you know, like if you, yeah, like just with the petrol stuff, right? So we just need to hold these things with a light grip in case we need to make slight changes and adjustments to how we do things. Just holding things with a light grip is detachment, okay? If we're holding onto something really tightly, it's gonna be, we're gonna get a hurt when we need to, when we're being forced to let go a little bit or to loosen that grip. So learning to hold things loosely is just going to be helpful for us if we're needing to pivot quickly or go in another direction or become more flexible back up at the start. So this, for me, this is what I'm creating. This is the fad that I'm creating in my life. I'm holding things with a loose grip. I'm aware that there are things that are shifting, that are changing. I have been aware for a while now that there is more of an evolutionary shift, and 2027, there is going to be some quite new beginnings, and so doing this training now is going to help us, for more of these curveballs that we're going to see coming, and it's just what we need to do. Yeah. So I'm gonna leave that there. If at all you're needing support or somebody to speak to, just message me, just come and have a chat, and we'll see, what options there are, in terms of support, or, places you can, go, books you can read, things you can do. Like, now is about like, it's not business as usual anymore. Where we're going, you know what I mean? We have to learn to be these things. We have to learn to be flexible. We have to learn to put our attention. These ones on the right are like all about, our inner world, and how we're grasping things, and these on the left are more our external world. You could say these are more our masculine traits, and how we harness, how we execute and what we're doing, and these are who we're being, okay? So this is me, this is my little, like, this is going to be in my back pocket, this little thing, for when I'm, potentially getting thrown off, or feeling that fear because of what is happening in the world. Yeah, things are always going to happen in the world, but it's how we rise to meet these challenges. That is really what matters. So, it doesn't mean that we're going to be fine and dandy all the time. Like I said, I tell these stories and I weave my personal examples into them, so that you can, like, see and feel that, like, we are going to feel all of the things. I did feel fearful, I did feel mad, sad, I did feel all of those things, and I also knew that I had to be calm, resourceful, otherwise, I'd just be taken over by fear. And that's not what I would like to do, right? So I come up with ways so I can stay focused. So if you have any questions seeing this, please let me know. Stay solid, and reach out if you need. Kia ora.